All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Star Wars Mark of Balance. My name is Mark, and I have a really cool episode planned for you guys today. I'm joined by my sister Jen, my resident screenplay slash writing expert. Say hello to everyone, Jen.
Hello there.
That's we're starting this already.
Well, the first time
Uh,
we recorded, I forgot to do it, so I really wanted to make sure I did it this time.
all right, good, good. I'm glad you got that off. But today's episode, we are going to be giving you guys the first three parts of our Obi Wan series rewrite, which we think we came up with some really good points, and we want to emphasize that this is not.
We're not trying to step on toes or say that the writers aren't good. This isn't about you guys stink and we're going to fix Star Wars. That's not the point of this at all. We have nothing but respect for Star Wars. We love Star Wars. This is really just about us having a lot of anticipation about a show that we were so excited for and characters we've loved since we were kids. And we just felt that there were moments in the story that they really could have punched harder.
Mhm,
And it just inspired us to say, well, if we were in the writer's room, what would we have
mhm.
done? So it wasn't really about we're better or they're bad. It was an exercise of just like
Yeah.
something fun.
Yeah, it was a fun exercise. We kept all the same characters. We didn't cut any characters. We kept the same plot points. So
Literally
all of
the
that's
same
pretty.
plot points.
Yeah, so we have the same arcs and everything. We just did a different way of getting to those big moments. We felt
Mhm.
there was a lot of conveniences in the show, a lot of things we thought was out of character for some of our favorites and what's been established in the universe. So we just did different pathways to get there, but you'll notice we have the same 6 episode structure, same characters, same arcs, just different ways of getting there, which we were really proud of that we were able to stick to what the writers gave us. And we do want to give credit to the writers because they did a lot of the legwork. They gave us new characters. They gave us a premise to work with.
Mhm.
So definitely all credit to them. We were able to just kind of build off what they did. So we hope you guys enjoy this. We think it came out really good. We wouldn't gas this up and give you some terrible fan fiction. We really do think this is a really cohesive piece of work, and we hope you enjoy it. So how we're going to do it is Jen is going to be reading episode 1 and episode 3 today, and I will be giving the notes for those episodes. And then for episode 2, I'll be reading the main plot points, and Jen will be giving the notes. And then in the next episode, for part 2 of this, we'll switch. So I'll be reading episode 4 and 6. Jen will be reading episode 5, and vice versa. So without further ado, Jen, if you want to jump right into episode 1, we can give you guys our Obi-Wan series rewrite.
Yay. Okay. Hope you guys enjoy it. All right. Episode 1. We open on Tatooine, an Imperial ship descending on a village we saw in the show. The Grand Inquisitor, Fifth Brother, and Seventh Sister disembark and march through the town scanning the faces, looking for someone. In a bar, the Grand Inquisitor tells the patrons Jedi cannot ignore people in need. They hunt themselves, then threaten the barkeep in a tense standoff when finally the Jedi reveals himself and a battle ensues. The Jedi is not only outnumbered, but hopelessly outmatched. The Grand Inquisitor overpowers him, and the fight spills out onto the street. A crowd forms, but one person turns away calmly from the scene, Owen. His eyes pierce an older Obi-Wan who stands in the shadows. Look at what your presence could bring. Obi-Wan is conflicted between intervening and helping the Jedi or keeping his duty to protect Luke. But before he can decide, the Jedi is cut down. The Grand Inquisitor gives a word of warning about harboring Jedi as they string up the barkeep and the Jedi. As the crowd dissipates, Obi-Wan and Owen share a heavy look, and Obi-Wan turns away in shame. The Grand Inquisitor informs Lord Vader that the Jedi has been dealt with, but it was of no one of significance. That's when we hear Vader's theme.
Ooh. See, we still wanted to keep that intense opening scene, but we didn't like that the Jedi got away. We really liked the really dark tone of the hopelessness that Jedi have in this galaxy. So this scene really sets the premise overall for the series. The Obi-Wan we knew is gone. He doesn't take action. The Inquisitors are tasked with hunting Jedi. There's a hierarchy among them, and they work directly for Vader. We wanted to clarify the Inquisitor's role for the galaxy to bring people who may not have seen Rebels or played Jedi Fallen Order up to speed, so keeping everyone on the same playing field. Doing this through action instead of dialogue like it was done in the show was a big priority for us. And finally, we wanted to hint that Vader is looking for Obi-Wan. We did take Reva out of this scene, but you will see why we did that very soon.
Cut 2, Obi-Wan moving through his daily routine, working at the butcher's. keeping his head down and going back to his empty cave. He is haunted by visions of Mustafar and of the scene he witnessed today. We cut to Alderaan, where Bail and Brie Organa come to check on Leia, who should be getting ready. But when they arrive, her room is empty. But Bail knows where his daughter would go. Leia's in a tree with Lola, identifying starships. She names the types of ships as they leave and enter the planet, but then something unexpected enters the picture, an Imperial ship. Leia is confused. Then, at the base of the tree, Bail calls up to her. She happily climbs down and tells Bail about the Imperial ship, but he brushes it off, that their cousins might be backward, but they're not full-on Imperialists yet. Leia is forced to go to the banquet, where she butts heads with her pig-headed cousin, who makes her question whether she's a true Organa. Leia and Bail share the same touching moment overlooking the city and the mountains in the show, and she's comforted, but not wholly convinced.
We thought Leia's introduction in the show and the series overall was great, and we wanted to utilize her knowledge of ships, Lola, and the relationship with her parents to best serve the plot. To do this, we thought keeping the ship scene in, but adding the Imperial element, it would really set up questions and create intrigue. Who could it be? Who is flying the ship? And also, the scenes between Bail and Leia create a small little arc of her questioning her identity while showcasing her really strong relationship with her father.
Cut to, Obi Wan returns to town to watch Owen and Luke. Owen catches his eye and pulls him into the stable away from Luke. Having witnessed a Jedi being killed publicly, Owen worries having Obi Wan close to Luke puts him in danger. Obi Wan has no defense. He looks over at Luke and gets a flash of young Anakin, who so closely resembles. Owen sternly leaves by saying, "Stay away."
This scene was really great in the show, and we wanted to include Luke here to motivate the confrontation and use the earlier Inquisitor scene to raise the stakes.
Cut to Alderaan. Leia refuses to go to another event where her cousin is there. Brie allows it, knowing Leia is too strong-willed to hold her tongue and make her promise to stay in her room. Leia does. Everyone will be told she's unwell. Leia, however, after only a short while, is bored and wants to return to the woods. Lola protests, but Leia assures her they'll be back before her parents come home. As Leia leaves the palace and enters the woods, we see a hooded figure cloaked in black in the distance. Lola beeps, picking up on a life form, but Leia disregards it as wildlife. When she gets to her tree, we hear the cloaked figure. The figure reveals itself by saying, "Your cousins have a lot to say about you, princess, especially where you like to run away to." But before Leia can scream for help, the figure uses the Force to knock her out. The figure approaches and brings her gently into her arms and assures her, the now sleeping Leia, that they have her as they disappear into the night. When Bail and Bria return to Leia's room later, they don't find her. Something doesn't feel right. Bria panics and Bail goes to the one place Leia might be. Bail goes to her tree and calls up to Leia, but no answer. He is terrified.
We changed the Leia capture scene for many obvious reasons, but mainly to increase tension, mystery, and stakes surrounding her capture. We also wanted to introduce our new villain, wink wink, while she is starting her plan. What that is, we will find out. And another note I just want to add, we thought the idea that, her cousin doesn't look at her as a real Leia, this might be a sentiment that the entire family might share outside Bail and Bria, and we kind of wanted to use that as an in for Reva.
Mark, how are we going to know who it is? The mystery is solved.
We wanted to use this as a little in for our new mysterious figure to have information on Leia to capture her. Sorry, I spoiled the surprise, but I thought the wink might have done that already. But yes, so that was the main motivation behind this scene, and we think this was a much cooler way to get Leia off-world. So go ahead, Jen, sorry.
Cut to, after another monotonous day of work, Obi-Wan returns to his cave where he hears the familiar beep of his Clone Wars communicator. A chill runs down his spine, knowing what this could mean. Bail and Bria appear, and they tell him of Leia's disappearance. Bail says Leia identified some sort of Imperial ship coming to their world. He blames himself for dismissing her warning, and he's frustrated because not only is his daughter gone, but he doesn't know if his role in the early rebellion has been compromised. Because of this, he can't go to the Imperial Senate, and he definitely can't trust a bounty hunter with the safety of his daughter, leaving Obi-Wan as the only one he can trust. Bria says, "You're our only hope, Obi-Wan. Please." But he refuses, telling them that he's not the man he used to be.
Yeah, just had to sneak that "you're our only hope" line into there.
I had to. So many New Hope callbacks in this episode.
Of course. So we kept the scene basically the same, but we did want to add Bria into this. She's also Leia's mother, so she should be involved in this conversation with Obi-Wan. So this idea overall of having the Empire involved from the get-go continues to offer questions for not only the audience, but for our characters. Who took Leia and why? Obi-Wan states the internal need he must overcome by the end of this series. He is not the man he used to be. At this point, we are really, really emphasizing how far Obi-Wan has fallen. He's now failed to take action twice.
Cut to Obi-Wan, having refused Bail's request, returns to his monotonous life. In this montage, he flashes back to memories of Clone Wars Anakin, his friend and brother, and he's consumed by the past. So we cut between Obi-Wan cooking dinner over a fire, hearing Bria's plea that he's their only hope, and whispers out to Qui-Gon for help. But as he calls out to his master about trying to let go of his Padawan, in answer, he recalls one memory where Anakin asked Obi-Wan the same thing. Anakin was struggling with Ahsoka's decision to leave the Order and asked Obi-Wan for advice. Flashback. Over a fire on the Clone Wars front, Anakin cannot let go of his Padawan. Upset and frustrated, Obi-Wan assures him he did all he could, but she made her own decision. You can't take responsibility for that. In the present, Obi-Wan is still stirring his dinner over the fire, and almost feels a sense of peace hearing his own advice, until, flashback, Anakin counters. Anakin asks, how would you feel if I abandoned you? Everything we shared and believed in. How would you sleep at night knowing I disappointed you? Anakin's betrayal creeps in. Obi-Wan says that's not true and it never will be. The memory is interrupted by Anakin screaming on the shores of Mustafar that he hates Obi-Wan. Then we cut to the present as Obi-Wan snaps back. The stew is bubbling over, and he's sweating.
So we always loved the scene from the cut Crystal Crisis arc in the Clone Wars and felt like it had a place in the Obi-Wan show. It helps frame how arrogant Obi-Wan was to think that Anakin could never fall, knowing what he knew about him with Padme, as well as him with his mother and the Tusken Raiders. It also really emphasizes how deep in despair Obi-Wan is. He is hanging on every word and every conversation that he had with Anakin, from the over-the-top battles on Mustafar to these quiet little moments. It also, for us Clone Wars generation fans, brings Ahsoka into live action beyond the Mandoverse. The scene's existence is a deep cut. It's from an unanimated Clone Wars arc, but the scene itself feeds into the current narrative that we're telling here. This not only satisfies diehard fans like ourselves, but it also doesn't exclude casual viewers. It was also a fun idea to give Hayden and Ewan a scene together in the premiere. Seeing them in Clone Wars or Revenge of the Sith wardrobe again would really boost enthusiasm for the series and make promises for flashbacks to that time period in the future.
Cut to Obi-Wan wakes to a tripped alarm and jumps with no weapon in hand to find Bail already standing in his home. He makes a quip that maybe Obi-Wan has indeed lost his touch. Obi-Wan agrees and attempts to send Bail away. Bail, frustrated, calls out Obi-Wan's passivity and cowardice, stressing this is Anakin and Padme's child. Leia's theme comes into the background as he tells him how strong-willed and intelligent she is, too strong. And the longer she's with the Imperial custody, the more likely it is they'll realize that as well. Obi-Wan doesn't protest, and Bail passionately declares that she is not a spare, and she's just as important as Luke, and she's your responsibility too. The mention of Padme and Anakin strikes a chord with Obi-Wan. Bail has to double down and agrees that Obi-Wan might not be the man he used to be, but whoever remains is their daughter's only hope. As Obi-Wan's new theme fades in, he reluctantly agrees, and Bail gives him the name and location of his mole within the Empire. Her name is Tarla. She can help you find Leia from the inside.
Nice. So we loved the emphasis the show placed on Leia being just as important as Luke in the grand scheme of things. The mention of Padme and Anakin was a key piece we wanted to have intertwined as early as possible. We enjoyed Padme's inclusion in the series, and we wanted to keep that as one of our pillars as well. Additionally, we thought including Tarla early on was a good move because we felt her character deserved more screen time, and we just overall loved Tarla. It would also make sense that Bail would know/be involved with the Paths Network that is saving these Force-sensitive people, so we thought this was a natural connection to have. Also, if you guys haven't noticed, we have been including little bits of score interludes into the way we told the story. Obviously we're huge score people, so we wanted to kind of emphasize that we thought some of those motifs and themes should have been put in the series earlier on instead of waiting to the last episode to include Leia's theme or Darth Vader's theme. So just keep an ear out for that. We did do some score inclusion in these episodes.
Cut between Obi-Wan preparing to leave his cave. He pulls out a hidden box apprehensively. He opens it and finds both his and Anakin's lightsabers sitting side by side. Back to the Imperial ship, Leia awakens. She sees the figure that took her flying the ship out of the atmosphere and jumping to hyperspace. Her cloak has been removed. Cut back to Obi-Wan approaching the transport. He's about to take a step when he sees the Lars speeder approach town. Luke is riding on it. He turns to continue towards the transport ship, his lightsaber at his side, under his robes. Back to the captor, Reva, sees Leia has awakened and gets up, revealing her Inquisitor uniform and circular lightsaber at her side. She shuts the door on Leia's terrified face. End of episode 1.
Boom. So we really wanted to make Reva a much more intimidating and mysterious presence in our version. We felt revealing her late in episode 1 with no clear motivations would make her much more compelling going into episode 2. A couple goals we had when we started putting this together was creating a sense of momentum between episodes, raising the stakes, and tapping into the emotional bank of all Star Wars media. Along that line, we wanted to throw in some deep cuts as well as some classic callbacks, all while keeping the story at a level playing field so all viewers can enjoy. So with this, episode 1, the stage has been set. All right, episode 2, I will be your guide now, and Jen will be the note taker. So we open episode 2 with Reva sitting back in her seat while the ship flies through hyperspace. She's examining Lola while the droid is off. She lifts it using the Force to turn it over contemplatively. Then, a loud banging comes from the other side of the door, and Reva's concentration is broken. She opens the door to find Leia wide awake and ready for a fight. Though still cuffed to her seat, Leia threatens her with her father's power. She assures her that her father will come for her or send someone. Reva hands Lola back to Leia with a threat of her own. That's exactly what I want.
This scene is really meant to plant the seed that Reva is calculated, and her grand plan is all emotion. We wanted to jumpstart the episode with the question of why Reva kidnapped Leia, and that her plan is to draw someone out in particular.
Cut to Obi-Wan arriving on the Seedy City planet we saw from the series. Obi-Wan doesn't have exact coordinates for Tarla because she can't risk direct communication for her outpost. Obi-Wan must ask around, similar to the show, when he comes across a street kid who informs him that if he's looking for someone, there's a Jedi who can help. This really perplexes Obi-Wan, but he investigates anyway. Obi-Wan is brought to Hodge's hideout, where he is currently manipulating refugees by playing as a fake Jedi. This disgusts Obi-Wan, and he calls out Hodge after they leave. Hodge realizes this is a real Jedi, and his demeanor changes completely. Obi-Wan says, "I was told to come to you to find people, and I am looking for someone named Tarla." Hodge laughs and says, "I work for Tarla." While Obi-Wan follows Hodge, he explains that Tarla caught him once before, and in exchange for his freedom and being allowed to continue scamming people, he must bring her Force-sensitive people who are seeking refuge when he comes across them. Obi-Wan is uneasy about this new ally. They arrive at the meeting spot, but no one is there waiting. Hodge insists that she will be here soon. Obi-Wan is now convinced that this is a trap. A woman arrives in an Imperial officer's uniform. It's Tarla. Obi-Wan points his blaster at her, but unbothered, she says, "What can I do for you, Master Jedi?" Obi-Wan relaxes, lowering the blaster, sensing the danger has passed. Hodge makes a joke that Obi-Wan might not be a real Jedi either, since he can't use the Force and he uses a blaster instead of a lightsaber.
We wanted to keep Haja as comedic relief, but make him more involved with the characters and the plot. Tying him directly to Tarla and giving them an interesting working relationship adds a lot to both. We also wanted to show Tarla using some seedy methods to get the job done. Also referring to Obi-Wan as Master Jedi could strike a chord with Kenobi, and knowing the custom implies Tarla has come across others before, which gives a lot more trust that Obi-Wan did not have any of.
Definitely. So now we cut to Reva and Leia. Reva opens the door as they come out of hyperspace, telling her they are almost there. Leia assures Reva that she doesn't know anything. She's only 10. Reva is irritated by the reminder of Leia's age and says, "I didn't want to have kids involved, but this is the only way." Leia, picking up on Reva, asks if she has a family. Trying to appeal to her sensibilities, Reva replies angrily, "She did once, gone now, taken away by someone." Reva realizes she has said too much and closes the door again.
Here, we really wanted to hint at Reva's backstory without giving too much away and let the audience start connecting the dots. We see here that Reva's family was taken from her by a specific someone, And being a Force user and someone of her age, one could put together that she was likely a youngling or some sort of Padawan during Order 66. And that's where she might have lost everything. But we also wanted to leave a little vagueness just in case we had some fan theories bubbling about.
Mm-hmm.
Someone taking her family hints that it could be Anakin or Vader. And the emotion she displays in the scene shows it might be revenge, but we didn't want to just say that just yet. We are left to wonder how Obi-Wan fits into all this. So we don't know. Is she trying to draw out Obi-Wan, or is she trying to draw out Vader, or someone completely different? So we just wanted to build that intrigue into Reva.
And another note you want to talk about here is, Reva feels uneasy about doing this to a youngling. So that gives another hint that something has happened in her past relating to children, and that just kind of builds around it a little more. So now we cut to Obi-Wan, Tarla, and Haja on the move undercover when the people Haja had previously scammed confront them. Tarla and Kenobi need to avoid a large shootout or a scene, so they make a break for it. Haja attempts to de-escalate when he realizes his companions have already left him. Comedically, he sighs and causes a distraction, then runs to catch up with Tarla and Obi-Wan. Tarla informs Kenobi that there is a safe house ahead that no one knows about. Haja catches up to them, and they all escape their pursuers inside the safe house. Tarla turns on the lights, and Haja and Kenobi look around the safe house and see all the names of the Jedi and Force-sensitive people who have passed through here successfully written on the walls. Haja is amazed. He has never seen this part of the operation and finds unexpected pride in realizing he has helped this many Jedi. Obi-Wan says helping people is the core of the Jedi. Obi-Wan takes it all in. He notices Quinlan Voss's name, which moves him. He begins to bombard Tarla with questions. Tarla reveals how she became involved with the Paths Network. She once had to round up Force-sensitive children and their families as an Imperial officer. She had them killed. As atonement, she reveals the tick marks on her holster for the ones who she was able to save. Obi-Wan is ashamed that he has turned his back over these past 10 years while normal people, even Imperial officers, have been helping the cause. Tarla asks, who are they looking for? Obi-Wan explains, and Tarla agrees to look into the Imperial Network and see what she can find.
Lots of backstories being hinted at and revealed in this episode, and that doesn't exclude Tarla, because we really liked how it was done in the series, but we just felt it was a little late, and it only really happened right before she died. As an audience,
total anime trope right there. Get the backstory right before they die.
That or the campfire where people realize that they resolve their issue with someone, and you're like, or they have a really good goodbye, and you're like, oh man, they're on the chopping block. They're going to die in this battle.
Exactly.
As an audience member, we want to know more about Tarla, and we felt introducing her backstory earlier in the show would allow us to follow her arc throughout the series. And we just wanted to make her a more complex character at this point. And that she's made mistakes, and she's just trying to reconcile them. Haja here also realizes the fulfillment that responsibility brings. Being a part of something good might feel better than money and fake Force powers. So also starting him on a little arc as well. And Obi-Wan is blown away by how many Force users have been saved and survived. And this will make him reflect a little bit later in the episode.
Cut 2. Reva lands at the Inquisitor Fortress, because I'm not saying Fortress Inquisitorius. Reva disembarks with
Literally
Leia
doesn't
in cuffs.
sound real.
It's not a great name. Reva disembarks with Leia in cuffs. The Grand Inquisitor approaches her, and Reva reports what she has done. He is furious, and he will report this to Lord Vader himself, who will punish her personally for stealing a senator's daughter. Reva challenges him that Vader will actually be pleased when he sees what she's done, and requests a holding cell for the child. The Grand Inquisitor does not object, though he is displeased. He gives the nod to an Imperial officer. Reva and Leia are escorted out of the hangar, and Leia teases an "I told you so" response. Reva gives Leia a brief history of Bail as they walk further into the base, the walls coming around Leia filled with unfriendly faces and stormtroopers. Reva tells her that her father was a very important member of the Republic during the Clone Wars, and a close friend of the Jedi, wink wink. Leia, though afraid, reminds Reva that there are no more Jedi. They arrive at Leia's holding cell. Reva smiles as the door shuts Leia inside, insinuating that everything is going according to plan.
Here we wanted to show the same divide amongst the Inquisitors that we saw in the show. But we just wanted to make the relationship between Reva and the Grand Inquisitor more prominent and more directly conflicting. We also wanted to drop more hints of Reva's plan, further connecting how she's choosing to draw someone out. However, we just still don't know why. Also, the line about her believing Vader was pleased also adds another interesting layer to her plan. not many people trying to be in Vader's presence at this point in the galaxy.
Right, yeah. All right, so now we cut to Obi-Wan sits meditating in the middle of the safe house, surrounded by messages from Force users and old friends like Quinlan. He is moved by this and attempts to reconnect with the Force once more. He is struggling. Sweat beads on his forehead. Visions of Quinlan, the Jedi Council, younglings learning with Master Yoda. The light floods in as Kenobi is once again feeling the warm embrace of the Force. This is interrupted by the one thing he cannot escape. Anakin. A chill rolls in. He feels Anakin's presence again. Through the Force, shock, fear, and doubt plastered on his face as, cut to, Vader's eyes open in the bacta tank, while the Imperial March storms into the background. They have been linked by the Force. Back to, Obi-Wan is startled out of this Force connection by Tarla. She says she found that someone was taken into custody at the Inquisitor Fortress. No name, a 10-year-old girl. Obi-Wan panting heavily, sweating. He has found Leia and her father. He whispers, Anakin. End of episode 2.
Can I just say?
Yes.
Can I just say? Hearing you read the part where he can't escape, a chill rolls in, and then he opens his eyes in the bacta tank, and we hear the Imperial March storm in. That's what I'm talking about. That's why we wanted to include the score into this rewrite, because you can just imagine him opening eyes going bum bum bum, like it's just
very visual that we're giving you. Yeah,
it paints such a picture, and it really just so anyway our official notes from this part of the episode. Here we felt the revelation of Anakin still being alive should come from Anakin himself rather than an offhand comment from Reva. We felt the scene in Rebels where Ahsoka realizes Vader could be Anakin through the Force connection was much more interesting. Obi-Wan reconnecting with the Force because of his sense of duty rather than his lack of action also seemed to be just a bit more realistic. This gave us an opportunity to have a super tense moment and realization on Kenobi's face. We're also super proud that we ended the episode in the exact same way as the show did, but we just took a different path to get there. And like I said, we utilized a lot more score.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the end of this episode and that realization for Kenobi. Like you said, with him realizing it on his own and then being linked by the Force instead of Reva just being like, oh, you didn't know he's alive. Yeah, he's right around the corner. He's good.
Yeah.
I really like that this was a much more baked in the mythos of Star Wars of Force connecting people. And obviously, Obi-Wan and Anakin being linked by the Force is not that crazy of a jump to make. Like, of course they're going to be connected if they have any inkling that they're both still out there. So we thought this was really cool.
We open on episode 3. Obi-Wan is packing his things. Tarla and Haja are both perplexed by this. When Obi-Wan says they have to go, they have to save her. Tarla explains it's a suicide mission. Haja agrees that no one is worth that. Obi-Wan, looking around at all the names on the wall, he points to them, asking Tarla if she was worth it, or him, or any of them. And against the Empire, they all know as well as him that any action against them is a suicide mission. Haja counters that an Inquisitor base is much different than a few forged papers or paying a trooper to look the other way. Tarla, showing a hologram of the base, points out all the reasons this base is impenetrable. It's surrounded by water. The hangars are the only way in or out, and there's torrents lining the whole perimeter for anyone approaching or leaving. Obi-Wan concedes for a moment, looking at the hologram. He then replies, he was once a general, and his job was to find a way when no one else could. He then brings up the screen and asks Tarla, how do they dump their trash? Tarla is confused and then catches on, revealing it's underwater. Obi-Wan agrees that's what he'll do. Haja asks how he expects a 10-year-old girl to swim out. Obi-Wan agrees it will be difficult, but necessary. Tarla asks, who is this girl and why is she worth all this? There's a long pause. Obi-Wan finally says, it's a friend's daughter and it's his responsibility. He can't fail them again. Tarla interprets this as Braille and Bria, but in reality, Obi-Wan is talking about Anakin and Padme. He senses her resolve waning and concedes that he will go in alone if he must. Finally, Tarla steps in. She can give him a fighting chance. Obi-Wan accepts gratefully. Haja adds, well, he's not going in there.
We wanted to have another opportunity to talk about Padme and Anakin like in the series we got. We thought it was clever that we worked in the idea of the galaxy seeing Leia as Bail and Bria's daughter, which she is, But to Obi-Wan, she's Padme and Anakin's daughter, and he's failed them both already. Additionally, without Leia and Obi-Wan being side by side, like in the series, we needed another way to talk about Padme and Anakin. Also, having Tarla and Haja being Obi-Wan's sounding board makes the audience form a stronger relationship with these new characters. Also, this conflict allows exposition about the base that we can use later during the actual heist.
Cut 2, Leia is restrained in her interrogation cell. Lola beeps to life and emerges from her pocket. Leia asks if she's all right, since Reva had her. Lola appears normal, and Leia is grateful and instructs her to help her escape, and Lola gets to work.
Just a little proactivity from Leia and Lola.
Cut 2, the Grand Inquisitor has brought Reva to inform Vader of what Reva has done. Reva is forced to kneel as Vader comes on screen. Her eyes are on the floor burning as she hears the voice demand why the Grand Inquisitor is contacting him. The Grand Inquisitor explains Reva has kidnapped a senator's daughter without clearance from himself or her superiors. Vader's contemplative, looking down at Reva. The Grand Inquisitor asks what is to be done with her. Vader asks Reva what her intentions for the child are. Reva finally looks up and sees the towering hologram of Darth Vader. We hear distant blasters, shouts, and children's screams like a memory. The Grand Inquisitor, impatient, pulls Reva up like a child and demands she answers his question. Vader contemplates for a moment as we hear Obi-Wan's theme. He then responds that he will come to inspect the situation himself. The Grand Inquisitor repeats his question, what is to be done about Reva? The Vader pauses for a moment, looking at Reva, and responds, we shall see, before hanging up. Reva smiles menacingly as the Grand Inquisitor shoves her and tells her Vader does not tolerate wasting his time, and who does she plan to draw out with this child? Reva responds, the Jedi you failed to find. The Grand Inquisitor, infuriated with her lack of respect, tells her no Jedi would ever come here no matter the bait. There's a flicker of fear in Reva's eye as she counters, he will come. He can't help himself. Isn't that what you always say? Vader can't help it either. The Grand Inquisitor warns her, do you know how many Jedi I had to kill to gain Lord Vader's favor? No one Jedi will put you at his side. Reva is unsteady.
All right, so we have quite the chess match going on in this scene. So we have the Grand Inquisitor thinking that Reva's doing this as a power play to become the Grand Inquisitor in the future, when in reality, Reva is doing this to get close to Vader to avenge Order 66. On the other hand, we have Vader, who already knows that Obi-Wan is going there because he's already linked with him, but he is following along Reva's plan and kind of using her. So we have a lot of cool motivations here, and we thought that was a really strong point, a strong point of this scene overall. And we used the Obi-Wan theme to kind of insinuate that Vader does know who this one Jedi is. So the official notes, here we wanted to not only build tension by showing that Vader and Obi-Wan are headed to the same place, but we also wanted to show that Reva's plan does have merit. It has been going as she expected so far. So far. Which we think overall makes her a much more compelling villain than we got in the show. And as I already mentioned, you can interpret the fact that Vader is going for Obi-Wan, not for Reva, as a sign that he is already one step ahead of her, and that she's not the mastermind that she thinks she is. And then, of course, we got the hint of Order 66 with her looking up at Vader, hearing the children scream, hearing the blaster fire, having that kind of moment where she gets transported back to the Jedi Temple, which we'll hear about a little later on in the episode.
Cut 2. Tarla is waiting outside in the shadows in her Imperial uniform, looking antsy. She whispers to hurry up, and Obi-Wan says the classic, I have a bad feeling about this, and appears cleaned up in an Imperial uniform. Tarla comments on his beard that Imperials are clean-shaven. Obi-Wan refuses just as a pair of stormtroopers walk by, and he gives a cheeky smile. Moments later, Tarla is escorted by a stormtrooper to her private Imperial ship. Everything is going according to plan as they board. As they sit in the cockpit, Obi-Wan removes his helmet with disgust. Tarla, amused, takes off.
We found this to be a nice light moment where we see a bit of Obi-Wan's spark of humor come back a bit. And of course, we have a callback to A New Hope where Han and Luke steal the stormtrooper outfits and invade the Death Star. We also have a callback to a Mark of Balance episode where one of my theories on how they should have been caught at the Inquisitor base was that Obi-Wan had a full beard as an Imperial officer, and I believe that most Imperial officers are clean shaven. So we kind of worked that in a little as well. So just a cool little drops of fun.
Yeah, probably one of the last bits of fun that will be in this show because it's about to get real dark, fellas and ladies. Cut 2. Reva is pacing, staring at the security hologram of the base. Everything appears normal. She's growing nervous and impatient. She overhears an officer inform the Grand Inquisitor that Vader's ship has departed and en route to the base. The Grand Inquisitor nods and smiles at Reva. Her attention goes back to the hologram until she slams her fist. As she exits, she orders an officer to watch the security and inform her of any abnormalities. He nods and replaces her at the desk. She storms out, and the Grand Inquisitor stands back, pleased. Cut between. Leia in her cell as Lola unlocks her final cuff, and they celebrate as they get to work on hotwiring the door quickly. Reva storms towards her cell furiously. Lola feeds Leia the door code, urging her to hurry. Reva stomping on the grated floor, her fury gaining. Green light. The door swings open, and Leia and Lola run out just as Reva turns the corner. Chase ensues as Reva uses the Force to pick Leia up. Leia screams for Lola to hide as the droid zips away. Leia is terrified but tells Reva to let her go. Reva says she can't escape yet and has to bring her to a more secure room. Leia is strapped to a torture mount, as seen in the series. As Reva approaches, Leia tells her she got out once and she'll do it again. Reva is perplexed by the willpower of the child and uses the Force to read her mind. To Leia, though, nothing is happening, and asks if this is a staring contest. Reva lets go conflicted, almost regretful. Reva tells Leia that this needs to hurry up or else it will have all been for nothing. Leia is confused, and Reva leaves as the torture droid from A New Hope enters. Leia screams for help as the cell door closes. We cut between Reva, who is outside the door in shambles. Leia's scream reverberates through the Force as Obi-Wan, in a cockpit, hears Leia's scream, and it mirrors her crying when she was born. We hear a distant sound of Padme naming her Leia and snap back to Obi-Wan. He urges Tarla that they need to hurry. Leia is in danger. Tarla nods and pulls out a communicator to transmit a message we don't hear. The cries of Leia, a child, brings us back to Reva as she's consumed by her memories, a flashback of her in the Jedi Temple during Order 66, as we flash back and forth between past and present. Children crying, being cut down by Anakin before her eyes. We see images of her looking up and flashing between the Lord Vader we know and Anakin at the temple. A clone trooper addresses him as Lord Vader before he cuts Reva down. Cut back to Reva holding her head, is snapped back by an Imperial officer informing her that an unexpected Imperial ship has requested to land. Reva is relieved and convinced this is Kenobi's attempt. She asks if there's anything else. They say Lord Vader's ship will arrive shortly. Reva nods to let them land and inform the torture droid to stop. Its job is done. As he leaves, she grips her lightsaber, ready.
That was a lot. Let's give a round of applause to Jen.
Thank you. Got to have a glass of water now.
So we really loved this revelation for Reva. So Reva's PTSD is activated the moment she hears the familiar screams of children. Not only does this strike the nerve that she has fallen just as far as Vader did, resorting to hurting and torturing kids, but also this backstory reveal seems much more natural. The scene overall of her being a youngling during Order 66, as we have Leia in peril, really heightens a rather slow burn episode. We also wanted Reva to have a slight reprieve from this feeling by hearing that her plan has worked and Obi-Wan has come. We also get a definitive answer as to how she knows Darth Vader and Anakin are the same person. We trust the audience to put the pieces together now. She was there for Order 66, she saw Anakin kill her family, and now she is looking to get revenge on Lord Vader through Obi-Wan. All by just showing it, not saying it.
We also wanted Reva to have that kind of hint at where her arc's going to go. Because we know, spoiler, after seeing the show, that she eventually does turn away from all of this. So having her show this regret at this point in the story, it definitely sets the stage for that eventual turn without it happening just yet.
It shows the little bit of light side in her, yeah.
Yeah. So we finally cut to Vader looking out into space from the bridge of the Star Destroyer on his way to the Inquisitor base, and Obi-Wan looking out from the Imperial craft as they descend on the Inquisitor base. They both have a feeling that a confrontation is about to occur. End of episode 3.
This episode slows stuff way down because the next 3 episodes are going to be action-packed and dark. As a series midpoint, this episode is a lot of Reva, who, as a new character and possibly a reoccurring character based on rumors, we needed to give her appropriate screen time. We wanted to show her dimensions early in the season so we could watch the arc play out through the series rather than concentrate on the last 2 episodes like they did in the version we got. A big if of the series is with so many legacy characters, it takes some of that tension out of the scenes. Nothing serious will happen to Leia based on her role in the saga, but that doesn't mean nothing happens to her. We obviously didn't want to show torture, and we just wanted the one scream of fear while paying homage to A New Hope to kickstart that reveal for Reva in this episode. We once again wanted to end the episode with momentum going into next week. Vader and Kenobi will head to the same place. Will they meet face to face? How will Reva's plan play out? We had to lean into the strengths of a week-to-week format release. So to wrap up, at the midpoint, we now have revealed Reva and Tarla's backstories, making them interesting and complex characters for a larger majority of the series. We have Obi-Wan beginning to open himself to the Force. Leia has had a roller coaster of events surrounding her, and Vader is about to become a key player. We felt this was a great point to leave off on and promises to create an exciting second half of the series. So stay tuned for part 2.
And keep track of all of the stuff that we pay homage to from either the original trilogy or the prequel trilogy.
Definitely. Yep. Because there's a lot of it, and there will be plenty more.
We lean in, baby. Lean in.
All right, so thank you for all for listening. Follow me on Instagram at @star_wars_mark of balance. You can see all this content here, find out about releases of new episodes, and join the community, which is always expanding and a lot of fun. So thank you again for listening. Thank you, Jen, for coming out for this episode and putting all this work into helping me write this script. And, of course, looking forward to having you back on for part 2, where we finish off the series.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited for the next half of this. You guys are going to love it.
All right, thanks, everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy, and may the Force be with you. Peace.